Hi, Exploring John, and today we're going to make some pear wine. Now for our base, I went to Walmart, got some light pear slices. It's in a light sauce. They also had some in heavy sauce, but we're going with the light sauce today. It has 11 grams of sugar. Here's our pears with the lid off. We're getting ready to pour these 10 cans into a straining bag in the primary fermenter. And here's the primary fermenter. The primary fermenter is a 6-gallon container. This one's made for beer and wine. We're using it for wine. Here we are with the first can. All right, here we go. Pouring a can in. Now we'll grab another can, pour it in, and keep doing this till we have 10 cans in there. I have to shake it down a little bit too. And now the last one. Now we'll tie that off. We don't want it to come back out. Double tie it for safety. Then we'll just throw it down in the bottom of the fermenter. Here we have a little plate with our chemicals on it. 2 teaspoons of acid, 5 teaspoons of yeast nutrient, 2.5 teaspoons of pectic enzyme, and 1¼ teaspoons of tannin. And that'll go into our wine. As I look in the primary fermenter, I've already put some water in there. Now I'm getting ready to add the sugar. Here we're going to add 10 pounds of sugar. And here's the first bag. And here's the next one. This will make 8 pounds since they come in 4-pound bags now. We've taken the rest of it and had to put it in the measuring cup so we'd get the right amount. So there goes 2 more pounds. Now we'll mix that in, stir it up, and it'll dissolve. We're going to add some more water to bring this up to height. I'm going to go ahead and put my chemicals in. We filled up our container the rest of the way with water to bring it up to 5 gallons, and now we're stirring everything up. Trying to get the sugar to dissolve the chemicals and just get it all together. The key to winemaking is your hydrometer. We're going to take a look at this reading, and it looks a little high here. We're going to add some more water to get it down to where we want it at 12. Looks like it's sitting at 14. Alright, we're down to our yeast, and I'm using the EC1118. And I'm going to pour it into a little bit of water in a jar. We're going to let it sit in there about 15 minutes to rehydrate. Then we're going to add some of the must to it. The must is the water, the pears, and all that. It's called must at this point, not wine yet. We'll let this set and soak up some of that water. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. Well, as we come up on our 15-minute mark, we could see some action there with the yeast. I took a glass coffee mug and scooped out some juice in it. Now we're going to pour some in. This way it'll get used to our mixture. Let's go ahead and pour the rest of that in there. Now we'll come back to this here in a while, and we should see that the yeast has really started to expand. We'll put a paper towel over it or a napkin over it just to keep anything out. Keep that in. There we go. We'll come back here in a little bit. Now what we're doing here is we're making a yeast starter. This way when we pour it into the must, it'll really be going good. It'll multiply several times before we pull it in, so there'll be a lot more yeast there. And that's a good thing. Now it's sitting there in the jar. We'll come back in 2 hours and expect to see a lot more action. Now it goes without saying you have to sterilize all your equipment. We didn't show that here, and all that was done off camera. But do sterilize everything. If you don't, what can happen? You can have 5 gallons of real nice vinegar. Because vinegar bacteria eats alcohol and changes everything to vinegar, and we don't want that. You might wonder how I'm able to make my must and pitch my yeast in the same day. That's because I filled the carboy up yesterday with water and let it reach room temperature. Then today I just put my sugar in it and stirred it up, and I'm all set to go. And that's what the yeast likes, is room temperature. This saved me a day's time. Last night I made the yeast starter, and about 4 hours later I poured it in. We're going to take a look today to see if it's done anything yet. Here we'll pull the lid off. And oh, look at all that foam. That's a good thing. That means our yeast is really doing good. So that gave us like a 2-day jump start on it. We'll check back with it later tonight when we go to stir. We're back day 1 now. It's been a day. We put our yeast in last night, and now we're going to take a look at it. Wow, look at all that foam. That's telling us that it's working. They call that the cap, and every day you got to come back and punch down the cap, they call it. Stir it in. That way if there's any nasties in it, it drowns under the liquid, and the liquid could also stop air from getting in. And we want air in there. It's our bag with the fruit. Let's smash it against the side here. As we stir this, we see new bubbles coming up. That's the real white stuff. That's our hydrometer in there, and even with the bubbles, we'll try and get a reading. Let's see here. Looks like it's down to a 10 already. That's a good thing. We're back, it's day 2. Take the lid off and look at that. Plenty of foam. We're going to punch down the cap again. Oh, the yeast is really liking this. Squeeze the fruit against the side of the vat, kind of to squish some of that juice out. Let the yeast in. Meanwhile, it's punching down the cap at the same time. Let's take a look at our hydrometer. It's got some stuff on it. We'll just kind of wipe it off. See if we can get a semi-clear spot. It looks like it's down about 8 or 9. Well, that ends it for today. We'll be back tomorrow to stir it again. We're here day 3. Lift up the lid and see lots of bubbles. Not as much as before, but that's because our sugar level's dropping from the yeast eating it. This is what I expect to see. So we'll squeeze the fruit here, and in the process we're stirring. We don't have much of a cap today to knock down. It's just this white foam on top. That's yeast burps. We want to get some air into it. Let's see here, let's take a look at our hydrometer. Gotta clean it off a little bit. And it's a scale. I'm guessing it looks like a 7. Right now, I'm guessing it's fine. The yeast needs a little bit of air, not too much, but enough. That'll do us till tomorrow. We're back, it's day 4. Take our lid off. Let's look at our hydrometer real quick. And it looks, let's see here, move it over to here. Looks like about a 5. So we should probably be racking it tomorrow for our first racking. We'll go ahead and give it its stir today. Yeah, the fruit's softened up. Not much of a cap to punch down now. And that should do it for today. Here we are, day 5. We lift off the lid. Look at that hydrometer, it's way down. So it's about a 3, maybe being pushed up to a 4. Get some air in there. Here we are, day 6. Take off our lid. Everything looks good. We'll look at our hydrometer. It's running about a 3. So it's time to rack this. First we'll take our hydrometer out. We don't need that anymore in here. Now we're going to pull our fruit. First we'll snag it up. Let me hold it up and let it drip for a while. Alright, I've sandwiched it between 2 plates. I'm going to squeeze it lightly. Don't want to squeeze it too much. Got our hose. I'm going to hook it up here to the side. Then we're going to siphon it into the 6-gallon jug. We're keeping it at the top so it goes through the air because we want it to get one last gulp of air. Then that will be the last air it gets. We finished our racking and we put an airlock on the jug and we see it's starting to work. So here's what we have of pear wine, and at this point it's not must anymore, it's wine. We'll let it sit in this container for a month before we rack it again. The wine has had a few minutes while we were cleaning up. And look at the bubbles, which are yeast burps, have formed a white ring around the side. We can see that airlock working away, letting all those yeast burps out. It's one way, we don't want any air in. Everything's coming out. Now this will settle down a lot, or all the way, till this is pretty much bubble free in a month, and we'll rack it again. I made a second batch of the pear wine, and this time I put 8 pounds of sugar in, and with my 10 cans, and it came out perfect, so I didn't have to add any water. So if you're going to do this recipe, don't use 10 pounds, use 8 pounds of sugar. Everything else is the same. For the second batch, we're ready to make our yeast starter. We're back. We're doing our second racking of the pear wine. We put some isinglass in here as a clarifier. We got to stir it. We're not stirring it hard enough to put air in it, just enough to keep it in suspension. That'll help clear it out. So we got a couple of jugs here to do, and we'll be done soon. Here we are with our pear wine. 2 different recipes, and it's time for our second racking. We're here for our second racking of our pear wine. A couple months after this will be good to bottle. Okay, after we racked the wine, we ended up with 2 5s and a liter bottle. So we'll let these 2 5s, we'll move them down to the basement, so we'll have some of that cellar temperature, and we'll let it set a minimum of 2 months. Anytime after that, it can be bottled and drunk. See you next time. We can see that airlock working away.